Before she could respond, Eleanor appeared in a swirl of pale blue light, her ethereal form shimmering softly against the stark darkness. Her voice was a gentle murmur, a balm against the creeping dread. "Leora," she said, reaching out a translucent hand, the veil phrase not without consequence. "Lost souls slip between the worlds, fading into nothingness unless we act swiftly." Together, they stepped through the shifting dreamscape, moving past wavering shadows and flickering memories. The consequences of the weakening veil were laid bare, souls caught in limbo, their forms flickering like dying stars. Desperate to be remembered, to be freed, Leora's resolve hardened. This was no longer just a sanctuary or a prison. It was a battleground for the very essence of dreams and reality. The library's magic, once a protective embrace, now threatened to unravel, and with it, the fragile hope of salvation. As the veil thinned, so too did the line between fear and courage, loss and hope. And in that fragile space, Leora knew her next move would determine not just her fate, but the fate of all bound within the sleeping library. The candle flickered once more as the shadows lengthened, and the library waited, breathing, watching, as the battle for its soul began anew. I first noticed them one afternoon, nestled deep within a shadowed alcove at the heart of the sleeping library. The books around me hummed faintly, their bindings pulsing with a gentle glow. And when I opened one carefully, tendrils of light unfurled, delicate and shimmering, reaching out like fragile arms, seeking something beyond their pages. At first, I thought it was my imagination, perhaps the library playing tricks on a mind stretched thin by years, lost and secrets kept too long. But as I watched, the threads grew stronger, weaving themselves into intricate patterns, looping through the air and connecting the open tomes to figures that shimmered like ghosts just beyond the edge of sight. Eleanor appeared beside me, her pale blue form radiating a soft light that mingled with the glowing threads. "They are the ties that bind us," she said quietly, her voice a soothing echo in the quiet. "Every soul here, every story captured in these pages is linked by these strands. They carry memory, emotion, and hope." I reached out a tentative hand, and a filament brushed against my fingertips, sending a warm pulse through my veins. The threads vibrated gently, and suddenly I felt the weight of countless lives intertwined with mind dreams deferred. Sacrifices made, the endless yearning to be free. "These connections," I whispered, "they're alive." Eleanor nodded. "More than you know. The magic of the library is not just in the knowledge it holds, but in the bonds between those who dwell within it. To unravel its mysteries, you must understand the threads, their strength and fragility." Days passed as I explored this new reality. I sought out Tamsin, whose restless spirit matched the flickering energy of those silver strands. She was skeptical at first, her sharp eyes narrowing as she watched me reach out to the glowing threads that danced at the edges of perception. "You think this will save us?" she asked, voice rough with years of bitterness. "These connections, they tie us down just as surely as the bindings." "Maybe," I replied, "but maybe they also hold the key to freedom." Together, we ventured into the dream realms once more, guided by Eleanor's steady light. The dreamscape was unlike anything I'd seen, a vast web of luminous strands stretching endlessly, pulsing with energy, as if the library's heart beat through this network. We walked carefully along the glowing threads, hearing whispers of forgotten memories and distant hopes as the strands vibrated beneath our feet. In that place, the barriers between us seemed to fall away. Tamsin's guarded demeanor softened, and Eleanor's melancholy gave way to a quiet determination. I realized then that the library's magic was not merely a prison of knowledge, but a living tapestry of souls bound together, each thread a story, each connection a lifeline. Back in the stacks, Milo appeared quietly, brushing against my leg with comforting familiarity. His green eyes gleamed with something unspoken, and as I knelt to stroke his fur, I felt a pulse of magic radiate from him. It was a tether to the waking world, a reminder that I was still myself, still fighting for a future beyond the pages. The whispering archivist watched from the shadows, his presence both unsettling and necessary. When I approached the glowing threads near a locked tome, his voice drifted to me in riddles and warnings, urging caution but also urging trust. "The threads will test you," he murmured, "but they are your path, if you choose to follow." I hesitated, knowing the stakes. The curator's influence was spreading, tightening like a noose around the library's fragile heart. But I could not turn back. These connections were my strength, the hope that the curse could be undone. As I reached out once more, the threads wrapped gently around my fingers, pulling me deeper into the web of dreams and memories. Whatever lay ahead, I would face it not alone, but bound to those who had come before, and those who would follow. The library was alive, and so was the magic that linked us all. But in the distance, I could feel the curator's shadow stirring, watching, waiting. The threads of connection were fragile, and the fight was far from over. And so I took a breath, steadying myself for the path ahead, knowing that every bond I forged was a step toward freedom or deeper into the dream. Milo, the sleek black cat with eyes like flickering amber flames, had been following me since the moment I stepped inside this forgotten sanctuary. For days, I had taken comfort in his presence, a small, living tether to the outside world, a soft heartbeat in the hollow quiet of endless books. But tonight, something was different. There was a purpose in his movements, a deliberate urgency in the way he looked back at me, beckoning me to follow deeper into the labyrinthine stacks. I hesitated only for a moment before giving in to the pull. The air grew cooler, the shadows longer, and the faint scent of old parchment and lavender filled my senses. Milo's eyes glowed brighter, casting fleeting golden light against the darkened shelves. We passed aisles of ancient tomes bound in cracked leather, their titles faded beyond recognition, and shelves that seemed to stretch endlessly into the gloom. The library was no longer just a building. It was a living, breathing entity, and Milo was its secret pulse. Then we reached a small alcove bathed in a pale blue luminescence that seemed to emanate from the very stones themselves. Milo jumped gracefully onto a low pedestal, brushing his fur against my outstretched hand. The touch was electric, a warm ripple of magic that surged through my veins, making my skin tingle and my heart quicken. In that moment, I understood Milo was not just a stray cat. He was something far older and wiser, a guardian spirit woven from the library's own enchantment. As the warmth settled, a soft voice echoed in the stillness beside me. Turning, I saw Eleanor, the ethereal mentor who had guided me through the library's mysteries. Her shimmering form glowed softly, her pale blue robes flowing like mist. "He is the library's sentinel," she said quietly, her eyes full of melancholy and hope. "Milo carries the ancient magic that protects this place. He watches over the dreaming souls and those who seek refuge here." I knelt beside the cat, tracing the delicate lines of his sleek fur. "Why didn't you tell me before?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Eleanor smiled faintly, a sadness deep in her gaze. "Some truths reveal themselves only when the time is right. You needed to find your own path here, to learn the price of knowledge and the value of trust. Milo has waited patiently for you to be ready." Suddenly, Milo leaped onto a dusty, leather-bound tome resting on the pedestal. The book's pages fluttered open of their own accord, revealing glowing symbols and intricate illustrations that shimmered faintly in the bluish light. I reached out tentatively, fingers trembling, and realized that with Milo's presence, I could touch these ancient secrets without feeling the usual draining of my own life force. A surge of hope blossomed inside me. For so long, the library's enchantment had felt like a cage, stealing time from my life with every page I dared to open. But now, with Milo as my guardian, perhaps there was a way to explore the dream realms without sacrificing all I had left. Eleanor's voice broke the silence again. He is more than a cat. He is a manifestation of the library's will, a beacon of light in the shadowed stacks. Trust him, and he will guide you through the darkest corners where even I cannot go. The words settled deep within me like a seed planted in fertile soil. I looked down at Milo, who blinked slowly, his amber eyes reflecting a wisdom beyond the ages. Together, we would unravel the secrets of the sleeping library, not as lost souls, but as guardians of its magic and keepers of its fragile hope. But even as a flicker of courage lit my heart, I knew the path ahead was fraught with peril. The curator's shadow loomed ever closer, and the bindings that held the dreaming souls were still taut and unyielding. Milo's secret was a gift, but gifts always came with their own burdens. I straightened, brushing the dust from my sleeves, and followed the cat deeper into the blue-tinged alcove. The library whispered around us, ancient and alive, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I was not alone. The story of Milo's true nature was only beginning, and with it, my journey into the heart of the sleeping library's magic took a new, uncertain turn. What mysteries lay beyond the glowing pages? What secrets awaited in the dream realms Milo would help me navigate? And most pressing of all, how much of myself was I willing to sacrifice to protect this fragile sanctuary? As Milo's tail flicked once, sharp and sure, I felt the weight of those questions settle like a mantle over my shoulders. The night stretched ahead, full of shadows and promise, and I stepped forward, ready to face whatever dreams and dangers waited. The library was waking, and so was I. At the heart of the room stood an ancient mirror, its frame carved from gnarled silverwood and etched with indecipherable runes, pulsing faintly with magic. Leora's breath caught as she approached, the air thick with the scent of aged parchment and something more elusive, a bittersweet essence of memory and loss. She reached out, fingertips trembling, and touched the mirror's surface. It was cool to the touch, yet it rippled beneath her skin like liquid glass, as if the mirror itself were alive. Slowly, images began to coalesce within its depths, not her reflection, but a swirling tapestry of time, moments peeled back and laid bare. First, she saw herself as she was when she entered the library, a frightened girl with tangled dark hair and eyes wide with desperate hope. Then, the scenes shifted, each book opened, each dream realm entered, each year of her life quietly slipping away. The mirror did not lie. It counted the toll with unflinching clarity. Years lost, like fallen leaves, drifting beyond her grasp into the silent void. A soft sigh brushed her ear, and she turned to find Eleanor materializing beside her. The mentor's shimmering pale blue form flickered like a candle flame, serene yet sorrowful. "The mirror shows what the library claims," Eleanor murmured, her voice a gentle echo woven from wisdom and regret. "Not just the time you have lost, but the futures you might never see." Leora swallowed hard, eyes fixed once more on the mirror. The images twisted, revealing fractured visions. A future where she wandered endlessly within the library's labyrinth, forever bound to the dreaming souls. Another where she escaped, but hollowed and broken, her vitality drained. And yet another, faint and fragile, where light pierced the darkness and freedom was possible. "Is there truly a way back?" Leora whispered, voice fragile. "Or is this the price I must pay?" Eleanor's gaze held a poignant depth. "The price is real. But the value of what you seek, the knowledge, the sanctuary, the truth is immeasurable. You must decide what you are willing to sacrifice and what you cannot." The mirror shimmered again, and for a fleeting heartbeat, Leora saw herself as she once was, whole, unscarred, vibrant with the promise of youth, unburdened by magic's cruel toll. The vision was a cruel bomb, a reminder of all she had given up and all she might never reclaim. Tears pricked at her eyes, but she blinked them away. The weight of lost years settled like a stone in her chest, heavy but not suffocating. Somewhere deep within, a fragile ember of hope flickered. "I won't let this be the end," she vowed quietly. "Not for me, and not for them." Eleanor smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "Then the path ahead will be both perilous and profound. But you are not alone." Leora turned from the mirror, the room's shadows stretching and breathing with newfound life. The reflection of lost years was a stark reminder, but also a catalyst, an awakening of resolve that would carry her through the darkness to whatever dawn awaited. As she stepped away, the mirror's surface rippled once more, settling into stillness. The library held its breath, waiting for the next choice, the next sacrifice, the next dream to be dared. Outside the chamber, the soft murmur of whispering pages and distant footsteps beckoned. The journey was far from over, and Leora knew that each step forward demanded courage as much as knowledge. The mirror had shown her what was lost. Now it was time to seek what could be saved. With a steadying breath, she pressed forward, the fragile boundary between dreams and reality shimmering around her like a veil. The sleeping library awaited, alive and watching, as the years ahead unfurled into possibility and peril alike. And somewhere deep in the shadows, the whispered voices of the dreaming souls rose in quiet chorus, a haunting symphony of hope, sorrow, and the unyielding will to awaken. The flickering candlelight cast long shadows that danced across the tall, labyrinthine shelves, their spines etched with symbols that seemed to breathe faintly in the dimness. She sat cross-legged on the cold wooden floor, a fragile manuscript open before her. The words on the page shimmered and shifted, as if the ink itself were a pool of liquid dreams, rippling under her gaze. Her fingers trembled slightly as she traced the strange script, knowing that every page turned meant another year of her life slipping away, vanishing like the last breath of a fading star. A low, almost imperceptible sound stirred in the silence, the soft padding of paws on the floorboards. Milo, her silent companion, appeared beside her, his black fur blending into the shadows, save for the faint glow in his eyes that seemed to hold a universe of secrets. He brushed against her leg, a small comfort amid the vast loneliness of the library. Leora's thoughts churned. She was at a crossroads, both literal and metaphorical within the dream realms the library unfolded before her. She'd discovered a place where paths diverged beneath a sky streaked with violet and gold twilight, a realm woven from the threads of countless dreaming souls. Ghostly figures flickered around her like lanterns, their whispers curling in the air, fragile and desperate. Each voice was a plea, a warning, a memory of years lost and sacrifices made. The weight of their sorrow pressed on her heart. Her breath caught as she looked toward the paths ahead. One led deeper into the labyrinth of knowledge, promising answers but demanding further years in payment. The other hinted at escape, a chance to flee the enchantment's grasp, but surrendering the mysteries she so desperately sought to understand. The choice was hers, and the burden was crushing. From the shadows, Tamsin emerged, her restless energy a stark contrast to the stillness around them. Her dark curls framed an intense face, eyes flashing with impatience and something more vulnerable beneath it all. "You're wasting time," she said sharply, voice low but insistent. "Every moment you hesitate, the curator's grip tightens. We can't afford to be cautious anymore. We have to fight." Leora met her gaze, torn between fear and resolve. "But every step deeper costs me something I can't get back. How do I know this fight won't consume me?" Tamsin's lips pressed into a thin line. "Because if you don't fight, you lose everything anyway." The tension between them hung heavy, a fragile thread stretched taut across the chasm of uncertainty. Before Leora could respond, a soft glow materialized near the towering shelves. Eleanor appeared, her form shimmering pale blue, robes flowing like liquid mist. Her presence was a balm, a whisper of quiet wisdom amid the storm. "The balance you seek is not found in avoiding sacrifice, but in understanding it," she said, voice gentle yet firm. "Freedom is not merely the absence of chains, it is the choice to bear them wisely." Leora absorbed the words, the bittersweet solace wrapping around her like a cloak. The library's silence seemed to pulse with meaning, a solemn promise etched into the very walls. As the candle sputtered and the manuscript's words danced before her eyes, Leora made her choice. With a steadying breath, she closed the book, feeling the familiar ache in her chest as the cost of knowledge settled deep within her bones. She would stay, she would delve deeper. The path ahead was uncertain, shadowed by sacrifice and risk, but it was hers to walk. The crossroads faded, the dream realm folding into itself like the closing of a great ancient eye. Leora rose, Milo weaving between her legs, and she stepped forward into the unknown, her heart a fragile beacon of hope and defiance. The library waited, alive and watching, its secrets ready to reveal themselves, but only to those who dared to pay the price. In that moment, the weight of years lost and futures yet unwritten pressed upon her, a silent challenge and a haunting promise. The journey was far from over. It had only just begun. Her voice, barely more than a whisper, carried through the stillness. "I will not let this be my end." And with that vow, the sleeping library stirred, its ancient magic shifting as the first steps toward freedom and transformation folded in the quiet shadows. I had learned to recognize that sensation by now, that oppressive stillness that heralded the curator's presence. Tonight, it was more than a whisper in the shadows. It was a storm gathering, unpredictable and fierce. I stood alone in the heart of the library's dream realm, a place where reality bent and twisted like smoke caught in an impossible dance. The shelves stretched infinitely, their spines glowing faintly with the light of countless dreaming souls. Somewhere beyond the fog, I knew he waited. A chill whispered down my spine as the shadows converged. Then, from the darkness, he emerged tall, gaunt, wrapped in robes that seemed woven from the night itself. His eyes, twin embers burning with a cold fire, locked onto mine without mercy. "You trespass where you do not belong, Leora," he said, his voice a low rumble that echoed through the dreamscape like distant thunder. "This library is my domain, my collection. The souls within are mine to keep forever bound, forever preserved." Fear clawed at my throat, but I forced myself steady, meeting his gaze. "They're not your possessions," I said quietly. "They're prisoners. They deserve freedom. A cruel smile flickered across his face, as if amused by my defiance. Freedom, a luxury you cannot afford. Every page you turn, every breath you steal from your own life, binds you tighter. Soon you will understand the cost of your rebellion. His words were a venomous promise, and I felt the years slipping from me with every heartbeat. But I would not yield, not yet. The dream realm around us darkened, the shelves bending and twisting into jagged spikes that threatened to pierce the sky. The curator raised a hand, and from the shadows emerged his guardian's ethereal figures, their forms flickering like dying stars, eyes glowing with cold malice. They advanced silently, a living wall of despair. I drew a shaky breath, feeling the weight of every lost year pressing down on my shoulders. But I was not alone. From the edges of the dreamscape, a soft light shimmered Eleanor's presence, gentle but resolute. Her translucent form glided beside me, her voice like a whisper carried on the wind. He feeds on fear and doubt, Leora. Stand firm, for your strength lies not just in knowledge, but in your heart. Before I could reply, a sudden burst of restless energy cut through the tension. Tamsin appeared, her dark curls tangled, eyes blazing with fierce determination. Enough hesitation, she snapped. We're running out of time. If we don't act now, we'll be trapped forever. Her words were a spark in the gloom, igniting a fire within me. The curator's gaze flickered, sensing the change in the dreamscape's tide. You think you can defy me, he hissed. This library is eternal. I am eternal. I clenched my fists, the echo of the dreaming soul's silent pleas ringing in my ears. Eternity without freedom is a curse, I said, and I choose to break it. The dream guardians surged forward, and the battle began, not just of magic and will, but of ideals and sacrifice. Each step I took against him was a step closer to reclaiming the stolen years, but also a step deeper into the unknown. Back in the waking world, the library's corridors seemed to pulse with dark energy. The rustle of pages carried the curator's whispered threats, an omnipresent reminder that the fight was far from over. I felt Milo brush against my leg, his emerald eyes steady and reassuring. Even in this place of shadows, his presence was a tether to reality and hope. As the confrontation faded into uneasy silence, one truth remained clear. The curator's grip was tightening, and only by unraveling the tangled bindings of his curse could I hope to save the souls trapped within and myself. But as the dream realms shifted and the library itself seemed to hold its breath, I knew the greatest trials were still to come. The echoes of the curator lingered like a dark melody, haunting every step, every choice. And somewhere deep inside, a question burned hotter than fear. Could I outwit a man who had bound himself to eternity, or would I become just another lost soul in the sleeping library? Only time would tell. And time, I was learning, was the most precious and perilous thing of all. Flickering candlelight cast wavering patterns across runes carved deep into a stone pedestal at its heart. Leora, Tamsin, and Eleanor crouched beside it, hands trembling as they unrolled brittle scrolls, their delicate parchment crackling softly like the whisper of old ghosts stirred from slumber. These scrolls were more than mere documents. They were fragments of a lost past, remnants of an ancient ritual whispered only in the most obscure manuscripts. Eleanor's ethereal form shimmered faintly blue in the dim light, her eyes reflecting a sadness born of too many years trapped within these walls. The knowledge you seek is dangerous, she murmured, voice both a warning and a comfort. The curse is woven tight, and to unravel it may come at a price none can yet foresee. Tamsin's restless fingers traced the faded ink with a fierce determination. We have to try, she said, the sharp edge in her voice cutting through the quiet. Every moment we wait, we lose more of ourselves. Leora felt the weight of their combined desperation settle deep in her chest. She reached out